So the dev live stream just wrapped up, the one they call the Campfire talk, and they kind of let it off with starting with, hey, we're not going to break a lot of new news here for this particular talk. And boy, I think that was a huge undersell. I mean, in this thing, they talked about what's going to happen with like a gem tab or something along those lines, the disconnect deaths for hardcore characters, whether you have to grind all those Lilith altars again for season 1, a ton of different changes in the time frames that they're going to come in. There was some huge crazy news, and I'm bringing you the bullet points, the synopsis of a 2-hour live stream that they did. Link to the full in the description if you want to see it all. But right here comes the bullet points. So I will just say everything they talked about in this video is kind of my synopsis of what they said. And there'll be once in a while where I'm putting my own opinion and spin on what it is that they said. And obviously anything could change before this stuff is released. They can always have the right to change their mind or program things and do things in a little bit different way. First of all, you see me hovering over some Nightmare Dungeon sigils here. Now, why is that? One of the first things they talked about was how people were spam farming normal dungeons because you could get more elites and more experience that way. And it sounded to me like they were trying to put an end to that. They're doing fix after fix after fix, nerfing those. And what they said they wanted to do is to make the Nightmare Dungeons the endgame farm for experience and items. Now, they said they weren't going to add more elites into the dungeons. What they were going to do is get more experience from each like elite and from the monsters. And you would probably find more stuff as well. So another thing they mentioned to make it more efficient to run these Nightmare Dungeons, the sigils, everyone's going to just hallelujah to the Lord for this one. The sigils will create some sort of waypoint or a portal directly to the dungeon that you're going to be taking. They weren't 100% clear or 100% sure, it sounded to me anyways, exactly how they were going to implement that. But one way or another, you're going to snap your fingers, hit that Nightmare sigil, and you will find a way to get directly to that dungeon so you can just go from one to the next without having to ride your horse and come across barriers and things like that. The goal for them is to have that fully implemented before season 1. So that's the time frame. So we should get it sometime in the next few weeks, because I did mention also season 1, mid to late July, not fully completely new news, but some people might not have known this. And they narrowed the time frame down, I believe, a little bit more here. They said season 1, mid to late July. Another thing that people were really concerned about, would they have to go run around the entire map and reveal everything all over again? Talking about the Fog of War, when you start season 1, it will fully be lifted. So you will be able to see the entire map. You will have to kind of go around and go discover the waypoints. You can't just hop into the game and fast travel to the other side of the map. So you would have to go discover that stuff, but the map will be revealed so you can kind of see generally, you know, the map and where stuff will be. So next up, while we're looking at the map, you see all these gray Lilith altars? Are we going to have to go run around and grind and just go grab every single Lilith altar all over again? So they said you do not have to discover each Lilith altar in the season. You will just automatically get credit for the renown as if you had found them. If you had found, for each one that you found prior to that in the eternal realm. And you have the stats if you have found those Lilith altars as well. So you do not have to run around and find all the Lilith altars again if you had already gotten them. They did also mention if you do add up the renown you get from each one of these Lilith altars, if you went around and found them all already, on the renown bar, it'll get you up 2 of the tiers on that renown bar. Renown will still be a thing that you get through doing side quests and clearing dungeons and things like that, but you will automatically get the renown from having those Lilith altars that you previously had already found. So I believe it is a skill point, and what is it, a potion slot you will already have. So we will not have to grind those all over again. Ah, yes, look at this beautiful inventory. Gems, 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 gems. And you know when you're out farming, these gems are filling up your entire inventory over here, and now they're filling up my stash. Now, they did touch on this, but it doesn't sound like we're in a stash tab, fellas. It sounds like actually they're coming with something even better, possibly. They said they weren't 100% on the solution, but what they were thinking is similar to having materials up here, where you have the gold, the obols, and blah, 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 like that. They're going to add something in here like this, but it will be for the gems. So you won't have another tab down here. When you pick them up, they'll automatically go into here. As you craft them up, it'll make more of the next one. That is the idea that they're thinking, and that will be an even easier solution, kind of for us anyways, so we won't even have to deal with another tab or anything. They'll automatically go into a material spot, similar to the rest of these materials right there. Unfortunately, though, when they mentioned the time frame for this particular one, they said it's going to be a little more difficult to implement. This one, they're shooting for before Season 2. So it's kind of cool that they have the different time frames for how important one thing is, and they're trying to get to the next one. So here, hopefully, Gem Solution can't get it right away, but yeah, Season 2, hopefully. Now here we're looking at Veiled Crystals, and they specifically talked about the cap on Veiled Crystals, but they were talking about literally all the different things. But apparently there's a cap of 10,000. Joe Shelley kind of said, I don't know why necessarily that cap is there. It was just kind of an arbitrary cap that they picked, never really thinking about or expecting people to get that many. But they said they were going to lift that cap. I don't know if completely remove the cap altogether or just lift it up to an astronomically high level that if you ever got that many, what are you ever going to do with that much anyways? But they specifically were talking about Veiled Crystals in their example, but I believe they were talking about everything, that cap would be lifted, and that's going to be happening before Season 1. So anybody who's out there grinding and hit these caps, that's going to be fixed for you. So looking at these rings right here, you see up at the top, they got some fire resistance, poison resistance, but I mean, who really cares, right? Once you realize end game, these do almost nothing. You pretty much only put the armor, the skulls in the rings in order to help your character out, because putting in the diamonds to get rid of the resistance doesn't really help you out at all. They said this is something they're definitely taking a look at. They're looking at making resistances better to really help you out and help out your survivability and all that, or maybe even make them more necessary. They were a little bit more opaque on that. It's more of something that they kind of realized was a problem, it seemed, but they hadn't thought of exactly perhaps or how they're going to implement it, or maybe it's even a more difficult implementation. I'm doing a little bit of speculation right there, but they did say that working on this particular thing for resistances, making them maybe a little bit more useful, they're looking at that, kind of shooting for Season 2. Boy, it just keeps going and going. Like I said, they were dropping bombs left and right of incredibly important information that everybody to get. Now, everybody's seen probably some of the clips of some of the hardcore disconnect deaths, or they just saved and exited and then they came back and for some reason their character was just dead. They've definitely seen these. They've definitely heard the people that this has happened to, and they're looking at addressing it. Now, one of the main things that they're going to do in order for this kind of like disconnect protection, they're working on auto scrolls of I forget what they're called, whatever the scrolls are that automatically save you just before you die. You can hit the button and use the scroll, teleport you back to town and save your life. They're going to set up an auto way to use those scrolls if you get disconnected and you die. So you will have one in your inventory just as if you were going to use it. If you did die after, you save and exit, or if you get disconnected, it'll automatically use that scroll. So you do have to have that scroll in your inventory to be able to be saved with the fix that they're thinking of. But that is definitely at least a good use, because trust me, if you're about to die, you're going to use that scroll for anything. You don't want to die with that level 100 character, or if you're level 98, almost getting close to 100. Now, as for the time frame on this, unfortunately, before Season 1, it didn't sound like they were going to be able to get it. They said before Season 2, they're hoping to get this implemented. Now, as you can see, right up here above my bald head, I have a cache, but I can't open it until level 80. Now, it turns out they actually mentioned this. This was a bug, completely unintended, I suppose, and this is one of the things they were going to try to get fixed before Season 1, but they did mention, hold up, when you are opening one of these caches, if you're a little bit lower, like I'm level 72, some of the items inside will have their own item levels, and they very likely, or, sometimes anyways, will be higher level than you can actually use, so you'll end up with gear that are too high of level. But the actual level requirement on the cache that locks it up so you can't open it is not intended to be there, and they're trying to go ahead and get rid of that. And they said they should get rid of that before Season 1 once again. So yeah, a crazy ton of changes all coming just before Season 1, really fixing up a lot of issues here. Now, holy moly, can you believe they started that Campfire talk off with saying they're not going to really break a ton of news or have a big ton of dev information and things like that? That is crazy in my mind, because in my opinion, those are some crazy huge info bombs right there. Super exciting stuff to me. Before you go, make sure you just wreck that like button for me, fellas, and subscribe up if you're brand new to the channel. Peace out, fellas. Don't forget, keep slaying.